Now, the White House seems to be in panic mode after the Mueller indictments earlier this week. Now, according to different White House advisors, there's talk about what the end game for Trump is going to look like. That's funny. We're about a year into his presidency, and they're already talking about an end game. That is not a good situation. So let's go to Vanity Fair now with Gabriel Sherman here with the details. He writes, "Here's what Manafort's indictment tells me." Now, this is according to Trump campaign aide, former Trump campaign aide Sam Nunberg. He said, "Here's what Manafort's indictment tells me. Mueller's going to go over every financial dealing of Jared Kushner and the Trump organization. Trump is at 33% in Gallup. You can't go any lower. He's fucked." Damn. Again, that is a former Trump campaign aide. So, those are strong words, man. Now, Sherman writes that for the very first time since the investigation began, the prospect of impeachment is now being considered as a realistic outcome and not just a, quote, liberal fever dream. I kind of love how he puts that. Because, again, that's something that the Clinton supporters are like, oh, yes, impeachment. Like, day one, impeachment. It's like, dude, yes, he's super, super unpopular, but has he done anything wrong yet? We don't know the details. We don't know if he colluded with Russia. Let's have an investigation into it. Now, anytime you bring that up, it's like, oh, you're for Trump. No, I'm not. I actually despise the man, but you actually have to have some sort of inkling that he did something wrong. And so, as time progressed, we found more and more evidence that, yes, he might have done something wrong, such as collude with another country in order to win elections. And now, personally, I think that he had some debts that he wanted to resolve. And just like Paul Manafort, winning political office and granting political favors is a way to get whole. But that's my whole read of the situation. But anyway, continuing. According to a source, advisors in the West Wing are now on edge and doing whatever they can not to be ensnared. One person close to Dina Powell and Gary Cohn said they're making sure to leave rooms if the subject of Russia comes up. They don't even want to talk about it anymore. In fact, I believe we saw that from Trump himself, who left after being asked about Manafort. He's like, go on. I'm out of here. I'm not answering that question. So it's because they don't have answers, and they're actually starting to get really desperate. According to Sherman, the consensus among the advisors he spoke to is that Trump faces few good options to thwart Mueller and his investigation. Now, you can't fire him. I mean, he could, but if he does it now, in the middle of investigations and 2 indictments, plus the deal with Papadopoulos, well, that would seem to indicate a obstruction of justice, or a desire to obstruct justice. Not so good. That's a bad idea. And then, of course, there's the whole thing where, well, he could just pardon himself and his entire family. Now, that would immediately launch into a constitutional crisis, the likes that we haven't seen before in this country. Now, is he going to act like a king? I don't know. But that's kind of a scary thought. Like, yeah, I'm going to fire Mueller, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pardon myself and my entire family. What are you going to do? Suck it. Not good. But for now, according to a prominent Republican close to the White House, his options seem very, very limited. In fact, one thing he's wanted to do, and one of his options, was to hit back. Now, that same prominent Republican said that, quote, his instinct is to come out swinging, which, he adds, won't help things. Now, in another story that I did earlier this week, his lawyers were telling him, hey, don't hit Mueller. Don't go after him on Twitter. That's a terrible idea. Don't say bad things about him. Don't go out and attack him. Don't get your friends to attack him. The bad idea. Now, so far, Donald Trump has taken that advice, but there's no telling when he's actually going to change his mind and have a complete meltdown. We don't know. For now, writes Sherman, Trump has reacted to the deteriorating situation by lashing out on Twitter and venting in private to friends. Remember, he's not lashing out about Mueller personally, but he is angry at the investigation and, of course, going after Hillary Clinton and the Democrats and anybody who disagrees. So, in fact, Trump wants to be critical of Mueller, but he can't be. And he's also frustrated that the investigation seems to have no end in sight. Now, one person who's been briefed on Trump's thinking says, quote, he thinks all this is unfair criticism. Clinton hasn't gotten anything like this. And what about Tony Podesta? When is that going to end? Well, okay. Look, Tony Podesta, that's obviously a huge, huge problem. As a Democratic lobbyist, it's getting swept up for doing the same thing, essentially, that Manafort had done. Yeah, so he could be also in big trouble. As far as Clinton, are you kidding me? She has gotten a lot of criticism, and a lot of it's definitely fair criticism, and some of it isn't, to be fair. So, yeah, she's absolutely gotten criticism, but Trump's over here acting like a complete baby. So, it's kind of sad. But, according to two sources, Trump has complained to advisors about his legal team for letting the Mueller probe progress this far. Speaking to Steve Bannon on Tuesday, Trump blamed Jared Kushner for his role in decisions, specifically the firings of Mike Flynn and James Comey, that led to Mueller's appointment, including, according to a source briefed in the call. That's interesting. Hey, what happened to personal responsibility? But no, it's not my fault. It's Kushner's fault. It's all Jared. He's terrible advice. Who listened to that advice? Who appointed Jared Kushner? Yeah, that falls on you, dude. That's your fault. But anyway, Roger Stone, of course, recently told Trump that Kushner was giving him bad political advice, and Trump had agreed, according to someone familiar with the conversation. He said, Jared is the worst political advisor in the White House in modern history, according to Sam Nunberg. I'm only saying publicly what everyone says behind the scenes at Fox News, in conservative media, and the Senate and Congress. So that's funny. Again, he's listening to Jared Kushner, who in other stories was revealed to be Trump-like and almost as stupid. I say almost, but maybe they're just as stupid. And no wonder he fits inside that family. He's also apparently a slumlord. Did a story on that before. And yeah, has the same kind of problems with bankrupting businesses as his father-in-law. So, and I'm going to throw in something so incredibly inappropriate. It also was like, no wonder Ivanka Trump was attracted to that, because there's some sort of weird father-daughter thing going on. I don't know what it is, but to me it makes total sense that Ivanka Trump would marry somebody just like her dad. Like I said, weird and totally inappropriate. But I continue. Now, the different advice that Trump is getting, I'm going to go to that now. According to Gabriel Sherman, as Mueller moves to interview West Wing aides in the coming days, advisors are lobbying for Trump to consider a range of stratagems to neutralize Robert Mueller, from conciliation to a declaration of all-out war. One Republican explained that Trump's best chance for survival is to get his poll numbers up. Trump's lawyer Ty Cobb had been advocating for the view that playing ball will lead to a quicker resolution. Talked about that as well. However, Roger Stone and Steve Bannon, well, they're not in favor of that approach. They believe, and rightly so, that the establishment Republicans are just waiting to try and impeach Trump. They believe, as I do, that the Republicans are waiting to see basically what happens with tax reform, and also waiting for what Mueller does next. Bannon's like, they're out of time. They're out of time. Now, they also, of course, talked about the establishment Republicans. One Bannon ally told Sherman, the establishment has proven time and time again that they will fuck Trump over. So, and that also is true in a lot of circumstances. Now, Bannon and his allies, however, they're not interested, like I said, in waiting or playing ball. He actually wants to go on the attack. And this is very interesting. In a series of phone calls with Trump on Monday and Tuesday, Bannon told the president to shake up the legal team by installing an aggressive lawyer above Ty Cobb, according to two sources briefed in the call. Bannon has also discussed ways to pressure Congress to defund Mueller's investigation or to limit its scope, since it, of course, is now about financial crimes and corruption. Now, originally it was about election hacking and things like that. Yeah, we're not really as much interested in that as we are about possible financial deals and financial corruption, in which there seems to be plenty of if Paul Manafort's case and the charges against him are to be taken seriously, which I believe they should be. Now, according to this Bannon confidant, Mueller shouldn't be allowed a clean shot on goal. He must be contested and checked, but right now he has unchecked power. So that's what's going on in the minds of some of these Trump allies. We got to rein in Mueller. We got to rein in Mueller. What if he finds something? He's got unchecked power. We got to rein him in. Now, Sherman believes also that Bannon's sense of urgency is being fueled by the belief that Trump's hold on power is slipping. Now, you remember Roger Stone earlier had said, watch out, they're going to do the 25th. They're going to say that Trump has Alzheimer's. Now, some people speculate that that might have been an out that Trump wants to use, put there on purpose, which is a interesting strategy if it is indeed one of the things that they plan to do. But it also could be a way to say that, hey, man, Trump wasn't in control of his actions. So all that stuff that he did with Russia, it's not really his fault. Okay. Like I said, an out. But look, he is starting to lose his control, and he's already lost a lot of the establishment Republicans. You've got open rebellions from Jeff Flake, Bob Corker, what was it, John McCain from Arizona. So he's losing all those guys who were actually fairly reliable votes. And Bob Corker himself was going to work from the Trump campaign or in the Trump White House. At one point, he was considered a VP pick. So how far they fall, right? But anyway, again, he's lost that Republican support, and a lot of Republicans had expressed in private, off the record, that they're just waiting to turn on Trump. So that's going to be very interesting. And look, it's because he's toxic to the Republican brand. So now I'm interested to see how the establishment Republicans will deal with this in the event that there isn't actually an impeachment that is headed by Republicans. You're not going to get impeachment unless you get all the Democrats and a great deal of the Republicans on board. So, and I think the Republicans in Congress are still really worried about the base. Now, the base overwhelmingly supports and approves of President Trump. So that's going to be very interesting. And you also see Bannon out there bankrolling his own candidates. And if the Democrats can get it together and actually run populist candidates, well, then there's going to be a bloodbath in 2018. And the establishment is not going to win. I mean, they're on the endangered species list. The establishment Republicans are. And now, if the Democrats run establishment candidates against Bannon populists, that also is going to be a slaughter, and the establishment is not going to win out. Not good. So, now speaking of impeachment, of course, 2 weeks ago, according to a source, Bannon did an analysis of the cabinet to see which members would remain loyal to Trump in the event the 25th were revoked, thereby triggering a vote to remove the president. Bannon recently told people he's not sure that President Trump would survive such a vote. One thing Steve wants Trump to do is to take this more seriously. The Bannon confidant told Sherman, stop joking around, stop tweeting. Hey, look, if he could take that advice, well, then he'd be doing a lot better at this point. But as I told you guys before, he can't help himself. And this is somebody who has no self-control whatsoever. He cannot pry himself away from Twitter. He's not going to stop joking around because at the end of the day, the guy is a joke. Now, as far as Stone is concerned, he wants Trump to call for a special prosecutor to investigate, you sit down for this one, Hillary Clinton and her role in approving the controversial Uranium One deal. Now, the idea behind that is that any prosecutor would have to look into the FBI and see why they approved the deal, which is an interesting tactic and one that like I said, might be successful. And the Uranium One deal is kind of shady. And there's a lot of kickbacks, and there's a lot of bribes. There was payoffs. So, and a lot of questionable things. I mean, money ended up going into Bill Clinton's pocket. There should at least, you know, if she were president, if Hillary Clinton were president, then I would be all over investigating it. But the thing is, she's not president. She doesn't actually hold any power. So, you know, it's not as quite as important, and I think would be used as a distraction. Now, the thing about that is that this would make Robert Mueller a target of an investigation. So, and here's who Bannon and Stone would want as the investigator. One is Mark Mukasey, a colleague of Rudy Giuliani, or the other pick to investigate Mueller would be Judge Napolitano from Fox News. Interesting. Stone said you would immediately have to inform Mueller, Comey, and Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein that they are under federal investigation. Trump cannot afford to fire Mueller politically, but this effectively pushes him aside. Now, whether or not Trump is savvy enough to actually do that, well, that's an open question. And of course, the timing matters. More indictments are likely coming. Those two, Manafort and Gates, are not the first. They will not be the last. So you've got a window for this, and it's growing smaller and smaller. Politically, this looks really bad. Unless, of course, you already support Donald Trump. So if you actually end up doing this and launching an investigation into Robert Mueller, which looks like they're starting to lay the groundwork on Fox, well, to everybody that isn't a hardcore Donald Trump supporter, this is going to look like a deflection. Now, regardless of which way they go, it's pretty obvious that the people in the White House are really, really concerned and very worried about what's going to happen next with the Mueller investigation. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.